President Trump declared that crime will be a major issue during next year's midterm elections.
I think crime will be the big subject of the midterms and will be the big subject of the next election. Think of it. They are, instead of saying Trump's right about crime, it's really bad in Chicago. You have a guy in Illinois, the governor of Illinois, saying that crime has been much better in Chicago recently, and Trump is a dictator. And most people say, if you call him a dictator, if he stops crime, he can be whatever he wants. I'm not a dictator, by the way, but he can be whatever he wants. I think it's going to be a big subject for the midterms, and I think the Republicans are going to do really well.
Now, in regard to crime in the nation's capital, Trump says he has the authority to extend the National Guard's deployment there for more than 30 days.
Number one, we want to stay there for longer than 30 days. As you know, we have an absolute mandate, and I can extend it, but I'd rather not have to declare a national emergency because by that time, I mean, right now, there's not an emergency. We've done, as you sort of said yourself, it feels like a different world.
But the president also continued to focus on Chicago, saying he has the right to do anything, in his words, that he wants, while also criticizing the governor there, J.B. Pritzker.
But it would be nice if he would call me. I would change my mind immediately. He said, you know, because everybody knows Chicago is a hellhole right now. Everybody knows it. It's not like he's saying Chicago has much better numbers, right? Well, what's much better? You mean 100 people are going to be murdered? It's going to be much more than that. So I would have much more respect for Pritzker if he'd call me up and say, I have a problem. Can you help me fix it? I would be so happy to do it. I don't love, not that I don't have the right to do anything I want to do. I'm the president of the United States.
Now, Trump also said he would also love to send troops to New York, but only if New York Governor Kathy Hochul wants him to.
I'd love to do it. If she'd like, I get along with Kathy. If she'd like to do that, I would do it. You see, look, New York has difficulty like other, and I don't want to make this I want to make this like friendly, but the places we're talking about happen to be virtually all Democrat run.
He's talking about New York differently than he's talking about Chicago or even Baltimore, Maryland, maybe because earlier this week, the Attorney General Pam Bondi met with NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch, where she reportedly told Bondi that no National Guard presence is necessary in the city, noting the record low number of shootings and touting the department's use of drone technology. Joining us now, White House correspondent for The Hill, Alex Gangitano. Our viewers might be saying, wow, that was a lot of sound that they included in their introduction. It's because Trump had a meeting yesterday that lasted more than 3 hours in front of cameras with all of his cabinet there. You reported, of course, on that meeting, but there was one specific piece of it that we can start to focus on, and it's the way that Trump talked about combating and deterring crime in D.C. with capital punishment.
That's right. In that 3-hour-plus marathon meeting, he said kind of briefly that I think there should be capital punishment in the city of Washington, D.C. Here in D.C., we do not have the death penalty and haven't for decades. And the president suggesting that raises a lot of questions over what can he do to step in on our laws here? What can he do in order to try to impose that on a crime that's not a federal crime done here in D.C.? And he was saying if you commit a murder, then this should be capital punishment. He said the word capital multiple times in that, really trying to drive that point home. And what I found interesting is he was so focused on just the murder rate. And that comes just days or was hours after D.C. broke that streak for not having a murder in 12 days. That's a streak that the White House touted a lot. Yeah. Then they cited, then we heard from the Metropolitan Police Department saying there was, unfortunately, one on Tuesday morning. So it was interesting. That was definitely top of mind for him, the murders in D.C., and they were really proud of the fact that they could say this is safer than it's ever been before that came out.
Yeah, that's certainly something the White House has been leaning on. The thing that they haven't yet filled in the gaps on is as they send out crime statistics, how many arrests have they been? Right. How many of those arrests were of undocumented immigrants, things of that nature? Yes, they are filling in numbers, 3 undocumented immigrants, stuff like that. But there's a lot of numbers that are unaccounted for in terms of out of 90 arrests, if 3 were undocumented immigrants, who were the other 80 some odd? And I think that's a question that they have yet to answer, right?
That's right. And every day, when they send over this crime statistics to, White House reporters, there's sometimes the numbers of illegal immigrants, there's sometimes not. There's sometimes reasons why they were arrested beyond the fact that they are undocumented, and sometimes not. But there's never a clear, this is exactly who was arrested and why, beyond just, what their status might be in this country. There's also a lot of times they'll list the crimes of the non-immigrant related arrests as kind of a catch-all. Here's 6 things that people have done. It's also interesting, the homeless encampment numbers, they can come out with saying 49 have been taken down since this started in early August. That number hasn't changed. The number of illegal firearms that's been seized tends to go up daily. So there's a lot of numbers we're looking at every morning when they come out with what the overnight crime success is, according to the White House, has been. But it's interesting that illegal immigrant point and who they're arresting on that front for what charges we're not sure is one that we're always looking for.
Yeah, always looking for and have yet to see transparency on. And of course, that was just one in a series of headlines out of that cabinet meeting. There's another one that I want to get your take on, though, because Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook now says she's fighting President Trump's attempts to fire her, vowing yesterday to file a lawsuit. This just one day after the president said he would remove Cook from the Board of Governors over allegations of mortgage fraud. Cook's lawyer, Abby Lowell, said in a statement that Trump has no authority to remove the governor, adding, quote, his attempt to fire her based solely on a referral letter lacks any factual or legal basis. Cook has not been charged with any crime. The central bank also weighed in on this issue for the first time yesterday, noting that, quote, long tenures and removal protections for governors serve as a vital safeguard, while adding that the Fed will abide by any court decision. President Trump was asked about Cook's lawsuit and the Fed's response during that lengthy cabinet meeting yesterday.
She seems to have had an infraction, and she can't have an infraction, especially that infraction, because she's in charge of, if you think about it, mortgages, and we need people that are 100% above board, and it doesn't seem like she was. We'll have a majority very shortly, so that'll be great. Once we have a majority, housing is going to swing, and it's going to be great.
The Fed will abide by any court decision.
Thank you very much for reading that.
You abide by a court decision.
I abide by the court, yeah. I abide by the court.
It's important when the Fed is coming out and saying they will abide by any court decision. That comes as the president is trying to lean on this idea of having cause to fire Cook. But it's not clear that he actually has cause. And that, of course, is the crux of this.
That's right. This is so unprecedented that a president would even move to fire a member of the board. And talking to experts throughout the day yesterday, that question of for cause is the main question here, because these are allegations of mortgage fraud. These are something that they've referred to the Justice Department to investigate. There's no criminal activity at this point. Again, they're all allegations. And so the president is leaning on just this one point that his Federal Housing Agency director was able to find. Well, they've been looking for cause in order to take some of these board members out. We saw him do the same with Chairman Powell. They were trying to look for a reason, and
ultimately the renovation costs weren't what Trump needed them to be in order to try to make this kind of a move.
That's exactly right. They were trying to get him on that. They couldn't. Now we've noticed that Trump has backed off on him. Now he's leaning on Lisa Cook. I mean, and Trump's being transparent about this one. He's saying we want a majority on the board, where he's not saying, we think we could replace her with someone better. He wants to replace her with someone with a vision of the U.S. economy that he has. He wants his people in that position, lower interest rates, get exactly what the president wants. And he's already said that he has a couple people in mind. So they're a couple steps ahead. Meanwhile, the courts are going to have to get involved here. He has said he'd abide by the courts, that clip you played, but we'll see how long this process goes and if Cook will be involved in the next set of deliberations about interest rates.
Which is just a few weeks away, because the Fed is set to huddle on rates come September. And what the administration is doing here is basically creating a logjam and also threatening, as they have over the course of time, the independence of the Fed. Conservatives coming out and saying this is not going to be a good thing for the U.S. economy in the long term. And yet we're watching the administration continue this pressure campaign anyway. Alex Gangitano, always love having you. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Allie.